All right, so I'm going to set up to do a study from life of the figure, what I'm going to do today is called a transparent monochrome study. So this is our first study that we'll do in the class, and what I want to do is show you how I set up, prepare the canvas a little bit and what we've got here. So this is a piece of Baltic birch plywood, and it's painted white with gesso. Let's see, painted on both sides, and you can see that I've used it several times as a painting board. I haven't painted on it, but I painted on the canvas, so that's why you see the paint around the sides. So I'm just going to tape a piece of canvas onto this board to work from. And it is warped a little bit, so you see curvature there. When it's curved, I like to have that curve convex to my painting surface rather than concave. So if there's any curve on it, I'm going to have it sort of bulging outward. That just helps me stretch the canvas a little tighter on there with tape. I'm not actually stretching the canvas. I won't be stapling this on. What I'm going to do is just use this artist tape and this pre-primed gessoed canvas pad. It's 12 by 16. There are other makes of this. I think the Fredericks is probably the best one for this. It's 100% cotton. But the reason I like the Fredericks is because the gesso on there is a little bit smooth. It's a little bit slippery. It's textured, but it's not as porous as some of them. Some of them use a very porous gesso. This one will allow us to move the paint around a little easier and to rub out. So that's what we'll get the whites from with the transparency, the transparent wash. It's kind of like watercolor. We won't be adding white today, and our white will come from rubbing out onto this canvas. Okay. So it's important that you have a kind of canvas that is gessoed in such a way that it's not overly porous. You want it to be able to rub out. I do know the Pro Art brand does not work as well as this, so I recommend the Fredericks. And as part of the kit, if you buy the kit from the BYU store, you'll have this canvas pad, hopefully, if they do what I asked them to. I'm going to pull a palette knife, maybe two. And these aren't that sharp, but they are sharp, so do be careful with them. Not as sharp as a razor, but they do get pretty sharp with use. And I'm just going to use this to help sort of release the canvas from the pad. Put it up here. This way, hopefully there's a little less fraying. You can just rip it off, but I want to try to... Sometimes the glue is a little intense on the top of this pad, so I'm going to kind of trim it off there. Not that it really matters, we're just doing a study today and it's the edge of the canvas. Later we'll talk about stretched canvas and how to stretch your own canvas, how to prime it. So that's all I need this pad for right now. I've got one sheet of canvas here. One key also is to make sure that you've got the correct side of the canvas. You want to make sure that you're using the gessoed side of the canvas, the primed side of the canvas. And if you get confused, usually it comes out of your pad with the gessoed side up, and the back side is just raw cotton canvas. So if you look closely, you'll be able to see a slight difference in the color. The gessoed side is more white, it's like bleached white, whereas the raw natural cotton is a little more of a cream color, and it has these little flecks in it, little speckles. So you'll see the little speckles. It actually feels different too. It feels more like fabric, whereas this feels more like plastic because it's an acrylic paint. Okay, so just make sure you're painting on the primed side, the gessoed side. This is white gesso that they use on here, which is just the name for a really thick white acrylic paint. It's full of titanium oxide, which is a white pigment. And actually, I think I'm going to use a smaller board because this one might be a little bigger than I want. I want to be able to see around the model. So this is an older study, so it didn't go so well. I can probably paint over this one rather than waste the canvas. It's not too bad. So I'll just untape this. I think the tape's been on for a better part of a year, so it's a little sticky. This looks like the black, white, and orange palette. It looks like blue on there, but I think that's just gray with no orange in it. Okay. That's gone. I'll throw that down. Now I have a little bit smaller board. Similar, you can see the size difference. I'll put the bigger board away. I keep this other bigger board in case I want to work on a slightly larger canvas. And these are just studies. When I'm doing like a painting for a job or a client or just a gallery, I will usually stretch it on stretcher bars. I like to stretch my own canvas, and I'll usually paint on linen. This is cotton, which is cheaper than linen, not as strong, but it's fine for these studies. I'm going to just lay down on about a 1/4 inch overlapping canvas, press it down, and then this side, I'm going to do that. Just want to make sure it's a little longer than necessary. Because this is warped a little bit, I'm going to kind of put it up on this roll of tape and push it down just a bit when I tape it on. And hopefully that'll give a tiny bit of stretch, because I just want to make sure there's not bubbles or excess slack in the canvas, if that makes sense. So before I really press it down, I'm going to try to just bend that warp back a little bit and then get it sort of pinned down on there, nice and tight. Not super tight, because you don't want the tape to come off. But you see that as it goes back to its warp, it kind of pulls it tight from end to end. That's why I do the ends first. And press those down. I want to press them down pretty good because the solvent can get under there and make the glue of the tape release from the canvas, and then the whole thing starts falling off. So it is worth it to take a second to press them down. And you only want to overlap about a 1/4 inch to maybe a 1/2 inch, because the tape's only 1 inch wide. If you overlap more than that, then you don't have enough sticking on the board. My board is, I think, 14 by 18, so I have 1 inch to spare because my canvas is 12 by 16. And if you buy the kit, you should have a masonite board in there. It's unprimed, there won't be any gesso on it. It'll just be raw wood. If you have some acrylic gesso, feel free to prime it. I think it helps preserve the board when it's painted, just like any wood. And that's my board. It's ready to put on the easel now.